One of the quiet victories of life after 70 is simply being able to move with ease. It might not sound extraordinary, but think about it. Being able to get up from a chair without holding on, walking down the hallway without fear of stumbling, or even bending down to pick something up from the floor. These are the kinds of everyday actions that define independence. And yet, they can also be the first places where people notice changes. There's no shame in that. It's simply the body's way of asking for a little more attention, a little more kindness. I once spoke with James, a 72-year-old, who admitted something that frightened him. He had trouble getting up from the floor after playing with his granddaughter. For the first time, he felt truly vulnerable. Instead of giving up, he decided to start small. Every morning, he practiced sitting down in a chair and standing up again, 10 times in a row. At first, it was slow and shaky, but within a few months, he felt stronger, steadier, and more confident. That small ritual gave him back not just physical ability, but also peace of mind. It reminds us that progress at this stage of life doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. If you're wondering how to begin, start with something gentle. A short daily walk, even just around your living room if the weather is bad. A few stretches when you wake up, nothing painful, just enough to remind your joints they still have life in them. Or a balance practice, standing on one leg for a few seconds while keeping a chair nearby for safety. These may seem like small things, but they build a foundation of strength and confidence that makes every other part of life feel lighter. Ask yourself softly, how does my body feel today? Do I notice stiffness when I rise in the morning? Do I feel tension in my hips or back when I sit too long? These aren't judgments, they're signals. And when you listen with care, you'll often find that your body is asking for gentle movement, not punishment. Please remember, this isn't about trying to be the person you were at 40. It's about protecting your freedom to move through the world with dignity at 70. That is winning. And if this speaks to you, I'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe so you won't miss the next steps on this journey of caring for your whole self. Keeping your mind engaged at 70 is one of the most beautiful gifts you can give yourself. The truth is, the brain is not like a light bulb that dims with age. It's more like a garden. It needs sunlight, water, and care to keep growing. And while the garden may change over time, new flowers can still bloom, even in later seasons. I remember Anna, who turned 74 last spring. She used to be an avid reader in her younger years, but she confessed she had stopped picking up books because she felt her memory wasn't good enough anymore. Instead of giving up, she decided to read just a single page each morning, aloud to herself. Slowly, she began to notice not only that her memory was steadier than she thought, but that the act of reading gave her joy, a kind of companionship with the words on the page. She told me that it wasn't about remembering everything, it was about keeping her mind alive, playful, and curious. There's something powerful about this because science now shows us that even in our 70s and beyond, the brain retains its ability to form new connections. It's called neuroplasticity. Each time you challenge yourself, whether by learning a new word, solving a puzzle, or even recalling yesterday's conversation, you're quite literally strengthening pathways in your brain. You don't need to do anything overwhelming. In fact, smaller, consistent efforts are often more effective. You could try memorizing a short poem, practicing simple math in your head, or even learning the lyrics of a song you loved in your 20s. A phone call with a friend where you really listen and respond thoughtfully is itself a form of cognitive exercise. Ask yourself gently, when was the last time I tried something just a little unfamiliar? Do I give my brain chances to stretch, or do I stay only in routines? There's no criticism here, only an invitation to notice. If you'd like a place to begin, set aside 10 minutes today for an activity that makes your mind feel just a little more awake. It could be reading, crosswords, learning a phrase in another language, or writing down 3 memories from your past. These are not tests, they are gifts to yourself, gentle reminders that your mind still has energy waiting to be used. And perhaps the most important thing to remember is that engaging your mind isn't about avoiding aging, it's about embracing it with curiosity.
The more you stimulate your thoughts, the more present and vibrant you feel in daily life. If this touches something inside you, I warmly invite you to subscribe so you can continue receiving these reflections and gentle practices. Sometimes all we need is a small reminder to keep our inner garden alive and blooming, no matter what season of life we're in. Sleep changes with age, and that can be unsettling. You may remember falling into deep, easy rest in your 30s or 40s, only to find now that nights feel longer, broken into fragments, sometimes restless. This doesn't mean your body is failing you. It means your rhythms are shifting, and they need a gentler kind of care. The science behind it is quite fascinating. As we age, our production of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate sleep, naturally declines. Deep sleep stages also shorten, which is why you may wake up more often during the night or rise earlier in the morning. It's not that you're doing something wrong, it's that your body is reorganizing how it restores itself. Knowing this can bring relief because it helps you stop blaming yourself for something that is, in truth, part of the natural process of living long.
Still, there are steps you can take to invite rest more gracefully. The first is honoring consistency. Try to keep your bedtime and wake-up time steady, even on weekends. The body loves rhythm, and giving it predictability is like soothing it with a gentle lullaby. The second is being mindful about what you eat and drink in the evening. Heavy meals too close to bedtime or stimulants like coffee can keep the body restless. Instead, lighter food and perhaps a calming herbal tea can prepare you for rest. Another practice is creating a simple ritual before sleep. It could be soft breathing, listening to quiet music, or writing down one or two thoughts you'd rather not carry into the night. Ritual tells your body it's safe to let go now. Even the environment matters. A cooler room, fewer distractions, and dim lighting all signal to your body that it's time to rest. I think of Margaret, a 70-year-old woman who told me she hadn't slept through the night in years. She often blamed herself, saying she must be too anxious. But when she began dimming her lights an hour before bed, turning off the television, and replacing it with a simple breathing practice, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, her sleep began to change. It wasn't perfect, but she began waking up feeling refreshed instead of exhausted. What she discovered was that rest is not about chasing the perfect 8 hours. It's about teaching your body to trust the night again. Perhaps you can ask yourself gently, how does my bedtime feel right now? Do I go to sleep with a crowded mind or with a softened heart? These questions aren't meant to scold, only to invite awareness. Your sleep may never look exactly as it did when you were younger, but it can still nourish you deeply if you allow it to. And in that nourishment, you'll find strength for the day that follows. Food at this stage of life is no longer just about filling the stomach. It is about giving your body what it truly needs to keep moving gently and steadily. Many people believe that eating less is the answer as they grow older, but in truth, the body doesn't need less nourishment, it needs nourishment in a different form. Smaller, lighter meals filled with nutrients can do far more than large portions of foods that weigh you down. If you've ever noticed how heavy or sluggish you feel after a late dinner, that's your body whispering for kindness. One of the simplest ways to begin is by choosing foods that are easier to digest yet rich in value. Think of soft-cooked vegetables, whole grains, fish, beans, or a small portion of lean chicken. Fiber becomes a quiet hero now, helping digestion move more smoothly. And water, often overlooked, is essential. Sipping throughout the day rather than gulping down at once keeps your body hydrated without strain. Imagine giving your body the same gentle care you would give to a cherished garden. Small doses of what sustains it, carefully and consistently. Let me offer you a simple rhythm you can try. Begin your morning with something light but energizing. A bowl of oatmeal topped with a handful of berries, or a slice of whole grain bread with a bit of soft cheese. At midday, make your meal the heartiest of the day. A plate with colorful vegetables, a protein source, and perhaps a small soup to warm your digestion. Evening should be gentler. A bowl of lentils, a salad with olive oil, or some steamed fish. Notice how your body responds not only to what you eat, but when you eat it. This awareness is more important than rigid rules. Alongside food, connection matters just as much. Eating alone day after day can dim the appetite of both body and soul. Sharing even a simple meal with someone or calling a loved one while sipping tea nourishes a different kind of hunger, the need for belonging. Eleanor, at 76, told me she had started inviting her neighbor once a week for a light dinner. "We don't cook fancy meals," she laughed, "but I find I sleep better afterward, as if the food settles more easily when shared." Her story reminds us that food is not just physical. It is emotional, spiritual, and social. You may want to ask yourself gently, do I pay attention to how food makes me feel after, not just during the meal? Do I eat with joy or only out of habit? These questions aren't meant to add pressure, but to help you listen to your body's quiet wisdom. The truth is, eating with awareness is not about strict diets or perfection. It's about aligning your meals with the needs of your changing body and the tenderness of your heart. In that shift, you may discover that nourishment becomes not only fuel, but also a form of daily love for yourself. There's a common idea floating around that once you reach 70, life becomes quieter, almost as if the world expects you to fade into the background. But the truth is, love and connection remain as vital as air and water, maybe even more so now. Relationships, whether with family, friends, or the simple kindness of neighbors, are what keep the spirit nourished. At this stage, it isn't about how many people you have around you, but how deeply you allow yourself to be touched by those connections. There's a myth many carry that growing older means eating less, moving less, and needing less of everything, including companionship. But that isn't right. The body may need smaller meals, yes, but richer in nutrients. The heart, on the other hand, needs deeper conversations, shared laughter, and the gentle comfort of being remembered. When we deny ourselves these things, we're not simplifying life. We're starving a part of ourselves that thrives on closeness. Think of Richard, who turned 71 last year. After his wife passed, he felt the walls of his home closing in. Meals tasted bland, mornings felt empty, and his energy drained quickly. One day, a neighbor invited him for tea. It wasn't a grand occasion, just two people sitting across a small table. But Richard told me later that this moment reminded him he was still part of something bigger than his grief. From then on, he started hosting a small gathering every Friday, just coffee and biscuits. He said his home felt alive again, and so did he. You don't need large gestures to keep love alive in your life. Sometimes it's a simple phone call, a walk with an old friend, or writing a note to someone you haven't spoken to in years. Ask yourself softly, who warms my spirit when I think of them? When was the last time I let myself reach out, not out of obligation, but out of longing for closeness? These reflections are not to stir guilt, but to remind you that your connections are treasures that keep you vibrant. And if you ever feel lonely, know this. Reaching out isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of courage and self-care. At 70 and beyond, winning isn't about how fast you can run or how sharp your memory remains. It's about still being able to give and receive love in whatever form it shows up. That is what keeps life meaningful. So if you can still share a meal, offer a smile, hold a conversation, or open your heart, you are winning. I'd love to hear from you. What role does connection play in your life right now? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might be the encouragement someone else needs today. And if these reflections bring you comfort, I warmly invite you to subscribe so we can keep walking this gentle path together.